Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Always the pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time. Obsessed with the issue of violence, mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening all, welcome back to your appointment on the UK's cosiest horror stream. This is episode 135 of Double Feature Horror Show, and I hope you all are well. Roll call in the chat, say hi if you are here. It's always good to see familiar faces. Said hi to a lot of you. It's always good to greet you all. We have an interesting one this week. It is me and Murgoot once again. Oh, I'm being challenged here. Okay, what is that? That is some moon. That is the moon from Dollface. I could try and work through that the hiragana there, but it's long past my abilities. You distracted me. You distracted me with a bit of hiragana posting. Anyway, we do not have a TCG. The poor guy is absolutely rushed off his feet. It is busy times in Casa del TCG. However, as we are once again covering a horror anthology, it's Murgoot in the house. Welcome back, Murgoot.
Welcome, and thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I wonder half if TCG started this one and noped out after 5 minutes. What do you reckon?
No, he mentioned that he'd seen through most of the first one because he talked about a certain scene, and I think he noped out at the end of the first one. The outro of Dumplings is, yeah, it's harsh.
Yeah. In fairness, we've got him through much worse than this, and he has been trying to sell us on the film The Scrotum for quite a while. So we know he's made of hardy stuff, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Dumplings is squick-worthy. It really is. So
Truly. I'm glad you got through it. I'm glad you managed it. It was a challenging one, no doubt.
yes.
Now, as TCG isn't here, I am going to bounce the topic for this week. The topic is a bit of a special one. It's going to be a new topic series. We're going to be talking about the life and times of one Vincent Price. I was about to go into the middle name, and then I realized, hang on. There's about 5 people in his family around his generation called Vincent Price, and is he a Vincent Leonard Price or a Vincent Chester Price? And I couldn't remember, so I backed out last second. I think I got away with it and no one noticed. But anyway, the best known Vincent Price is the one we're going to talk about. Really interesting character, and we're just going to go through his life for a while. I think maybe it'll be a 4-part series, maybe 5 parts, but we've visited him once or twice on this stream, and I think it'll be interesting to know a little more about the guy, you know?
Brilliant guy. Supposedly really nice and perfect gentleman.
Absolutely. He was a bit of a fanboy back in the day, Murgoot. He used to haunt his local picture house, and he'd write fan mail to the stars, and was so happy when he received anything back. You know, he was bowled over, and he sort of from that made it a mission that he'd never turn down an autograph, and he'd always respond to fan mail, remembering how happy it made him. What an absolute charmer. Yeah. I'm working through the biography of him written by his daughter, and there are certain biases in it. There's a certain, say, framing that comes from that, but it nevertheless remains interesting. Let's just say that her attitude towards her stepmother is not something I'll apply an adjective to, but it's a fascinating book. We're going to go through it, probably 4 or 5 parts, looking at Vincent Price, but as TCG isn't here, I didn't want to do that because I know he was keen on that. So I will be, I think maybe we'll just move ourselves towards the film. What do you reckon?
Let's go.
Yay. Oh, standard thing. I nearly forgot. First off, massive hi to everyone on the rewatch. Guys, I tend to forget, but this week we're ahead of the schedule. I remembered you guys. Thank you for watching on the rewatch. I know not everyone can make it live. I hope you enjoy it. And otherwise, YouTube shilling stuff. Well, I've left a link to Murgoot's Twitter in the comments. Always worth a follow. You will get a very broad range of links that should catch your interest. And also the odd joke or two. And for myself, just regular shilling. I haven't put out a video since the last very interesting, serious video on Elite Theory. And of course, the Scream 6 masterpiece, which I hope you will all watch. If you haven't got around to it yet, please do watch it. It's a labour of love. Mm-hmm. That's all the big shilling, really. What else is on the go?
Adam Loves Horror just sent in $1.99 just cause.
Oh, nice. I hope, Adam, thank you so much. I'm going to trust that is appreciation for the channel and not you recommending a Steven Seagal movie. Was that Steven Seagal? It's got to be. Should we try and find out? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to echo Yiz's point. Yes, support me and my fantastic work on Subscribestar. Yes, it is much appreciated. And it'll buoy me up while I try challenging things such as tomorrow I'm taking a stab at recording my commentary for The Shining, and I am bricking it because I could hold off. I could be like, oh, I could read another Kubrick book. I'm not ready yet. I don't have to do it. I'll do more reading, but I'm going to attempt it tomorrow. I think
IMDb just cause it's Sean Connery and Lawrence Fishburne.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What a combination.
1995.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But goodness me. That is not I'm bowled over by that combination. Goodness.
It's certainly interesting. I've never seen it, so.
Oh. It really sounded to me like a Seagal or a Van Damme one. Goodness me. All right. Well, I shouldn't delay any longer, folks. We'll get into it because I'm not sure. This could be meaty. Certainly the first segment is. I also think we're going to have some pretty darn flipped interpretations, flipped scoring. And from our pre-show conversation, I'm like, oh, right. Maybe I'm a weirdo. Maybe I've got this film totally wrong. But anyway, let's get into it. So this week we are covering 3 extremes from 2004. If you're watching this and you're, or maybe it's 3 Extremes 2, the sequel. This is actually a sequel, but you in America probably saw it as the original and thought the original was the sequel. How messed up is that? That's right. The original, there was a project in 2002 to make a pan-Asian horror portmanteau. Portmanteau is your alternative to an anthology, a combination from disparate elements, portmanteau. In that case, it was doing, I want to say, another Hong Kong director, a Thai director, and a Japanese director. And that was successful enough that they made a sequel. So the first one was 3. The sequel is 3 Extremes. Three Extremes was picked up by the wonderful distributor Tartan and sent around, and that did well enough that they decided to go up and pick the original, which they released as Three Extremes 2. A little convoluted and interested. Adam Loves Horror, thank you so much for the $2. Just because I'm an awesome little dumpling. Well, thank you so much. I wonder what kind. I was gonna go in there with that. I will. There's got to be a bow pun in there, you know. Right? Am I too tired to come up with one? I'll bow in gratitude. Anyway, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. People are bringing out the inner weeb in me tonight. Yes, so Pan Asian Project, very successful, comes out. Tartan distributor who did very well with their Tartan Asia Extreme label. You probably have, if you were in the sort of early 2000s, if you were me, basically, you probably saw a lot of your Asian horror that way. And there'll be some familiar names from Asian horror in this. It's also surprising. You've got some very early appearances here. We've got a Chan Wook Park feature in here. And if you're wondering who's Chan Wook Park, you probably know the dude. Producer on Snowpiercer, most famous, of course, for his Vengeance trilogy, Old Boy, and which is the middle part. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is the first one, and it finishes with Lady Vengeance. And he brings in some of the cast from Old Boy into his section. Also, our good friend Takeshi Miike turns up with a really surprising feature, I would say. I've seen a few of his, but this one surprised me. It was not what I thought he would contribute. But you'll be familiar with him from his Audition, which we covered pretty recently, and I believe we're all big fans of.
Mm-hmm.
Murgoot, did you watch Audition? Did you?
I didn't watch. Actually, yes, I did watch Audition. Yes, I did.
Were you a fan of that one? Do you remember?
I watched it in the original language because I couldn't find it in very, very broken English subtitles.
Oh, yes.
So the movie was very good at making the point just visually, so I did enjoy it.
Excellent. And that's a bit of a carryover to his segment in this one. Very, very big on the visuals, extremely big on the visuals. And also the first director, Fruit Chan, amazing name. That name will never be beaten. Seems to be a really interesting guy as well. Started off, did kind of what you do when you're trying to get started, just make cheap genre flicks. So he did kind of Hong Kong crime mafia films to get started. You know, if it's good enough for Stanley Kubrick, it's good enough for your boy Fruit Chan, turning out a quick exploitation pick. Yeah. And he then did a trilogy around the sort of 1997 handover of Hong Kong from Britain to China. Quite interesting. I now really want to track those down. And he seems to have taken to horror. He's done a couple. He also he did another anthology, which quite interests me. I'll just have to track down. I've forgotten the name of it for the moment. And that itself got a sequel.
His episode Dumplings into a full feature length.
Yes. Oh, okay. So sorry. His portmanteau in 2013 is Tales from the Dark 1. There we go. And yeah, there's an interesting story with Dumplings in. I heard mixed reports on this one, Murgoot, over which came first, the short version or the long version.
I have no clue, so it would be interesting to find out.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't confirm it. From looking around, it looks like they shot the short version first and then were happy enough with it that they expanded it into a full feature, which meant they added about 50 minutes of material, maybe like 45 minutes of material to it.
Wow, they
Which
didn't
seems
really
unusual.
need this is effective short story.
It is effective. I mean, I was a big fan of it, and looking at what they added, it's I don't know. Wouldn't seem that it would merit it if I may. But you know, you get more time with Tony Leung, so who's going to complain about that? But yeah, that had a bit of notoriety. That picked up a lot of buzz, which is why I think they managed to expand that into a full feature that went around. Personally, my preferences for this, and also stylistically. Because we should remember we are covering the history of horror anthologies here. We are now in the early 2000s, so this is 2004, and we should note something about this. This is an oddity in terms of horror anthology format. Murgoot, I mean, you've been here since the beginning. What stands out to you about Three Extremes that makes it a little bit weird?
Well, they didn't use a frame story. They just took 3 separate, basically, episodes and just slammed them together. Intro credits, story, end credits, opening credits for the second story, and on and on. And it just slammed you right into the next story without any explanation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very stand out. It really just stood out to me. I mean, I suppose you could say you've got a film in I assume it was mostly Cantonese, then in Korean, and then in Japanese. Like, how do you bridge them?
I have no clue.
Yeah.
There were 3 sets of producers, 3 sets of directors. I mean, there's nothing really to tie them together.
No, you're right. It was 3 totally different production studios. I know a load of you must have recognized the old Kadokawa there. Don't pretend you didn't. Yeah, there really is no joining here. So yeah, why not just put them together? We should remember though, of course, like this is a pan-Asian thing. This is not connected to the sort of Western horror anthology cycle. So, you know, don't be surprised that it's a little bit different, influenced by us maybe, but no reason it has to actually copy us. I'd say another thing that stood out was just a little bit longer than you'd expect. A little bit longer. You know, getting to the 2-hour mark or going over the 2-hour mark.
Mm-hmm.
All of these stories had a lot more room to breathe than you typically get.
Well,
even
basically,
without
they're
a framing.
40 minutes each.
Yeah.
Basically, a full. If they were going to break them up into the 3 stories, you could use them as a televised series with commercial breaks, because it feels like that in a couple of them.
Oh, totally.
You could have a full hour run, but what was I going to say about it? But the way they just put it together, it actually feels natural without the frame story. It's basically, since we've gotten so used to binge watching series, it's like binge watching like Masters of Horror or binge watching The Twilight Zone, just one episode right after the other. It's actually pretty well suited to this day and age.
That's a really good comparison. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, it does. It flows, and maybe that's why it felt a bit more natural. Yeah, good call. Good call. Yeah. Well, those are just some notes on the production here. So, with that done, I think maybe we'll get right into it and start discussing it. And let's, maybe lean in. A quick shot of the title. Doesn't really. Fairly standard title, to be honest. And otherwise, let's start talking dumplings.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I can do the Guinness on this because if I try and describe the second, I will get lost. I am so confused about the second story. So I was going to just like offload that onto you, Murgoot.
I'll let you do the first one. I'll take the second one.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to do more like the shot of Guinness summary because, you know, all the devil's in the detail here. And these are pretty simple plots. So in short, this is the section Dumplings by Fruit Chan. I'll never get used to that name. I love it so much. And it concerns a protagonist whose names I immediately forget. Mrs. Lee, there we go. Crikey. Right. So Mrs. Lee, played by, I believe, Vivian Chung there, which I will confirm. Oh, sorry, Miriam Young is married to a wealthy businessman. She used to be an actress, but, you know, she's married. She's gotten on a bit, and she feels she's lost the attention of her husband, played by Tony Leung. And absolutely she has. He is ploughing a masseuse in graphic detail, as we find out. So in order to sort of keep him interested in her, worrying she's losing him, she goes to see the mysterious May.
May.
Yeah.
Everybody calls me Aunt May, played by the beautiful Bai Ling.
Yeah. The term for aunt is a kind of one that sort of adds quite a lot of seniority to it. An interesting clue there. It doesn't really translate as far as I gather.
It's like respected elder or she's everybody's auntie.
Yeah. It's got that air of seniority to it. But yes, the gorgeous Bai Ling, fairly well known in the West, I would say. I mean, heck, she appeared in an episode of Lost. That'll do it.
She's been in lots of things. She was in Nixon. God, what else was she in? Oh, man. But it's
See, people are loving it. Yeah, not to be confused with 4chan. No, and Fruit Chan is different. Oh, dear. Anyway, sorry. Mrs. Lee goes to see Aunt May, to try some of her special dumplings, which will give her the youth and vitality back. And interestingly enough, there is no secret made of what is in the dumplings. You are told within the first 5 minutes, and you are shown in graphic detail, that these are stuffed with something that YouTube will make it very difficult for me to describe. But it is... These dumplings are the old Roe v. Wade special. They are extremely organic. Basically, it is baby in there. It is terminated baby in there. Maybe some chives. We don't know, but you are shown this in absolutely graphic detail. I am going to show you something that is not as graphic, but you have the knowledge when you see it. I'm sparing you the worst stuff, but I will show you the kind of close-up they give you to get the idea of what's going in. They want you to see, they want you to know in great detail, they want you to be grossed out by it.
Well, the audio for this is just brutally brilliant. Squish, squish, chop, chop, squish, squish. All the while she's smiling along to it.
Oh, it's like Margaret Sanger's ASMR. It's so nasty. Honestly. Right, we're not going to make any references to things that begin with Adreno. We're not going to do it, boys. We're going to get through the whole stream without it. All right? Okay. So, They give you this in gruesome audio detail close up. That is the one I will show you, and even that is risky. But the interesting thing here is, you know this from the start. This is not a sort of third act reveal. You find this out in 5 minutes, and the story proceeds. Mrs. Lee gets over this hurdle very quickly, and then basically is impatient. Once she's gotten over this hurdle, she wants more. She goes to Mrs. Lee for more potent versions, and Mrs. Lee starts May starts upping the ante, saying, "Oh well, you'll want the filling to have been about 5 to 6 months old," and she goes for that, and then
she goes for one that we've got to dance around. Interfamily relations.
Yeah, it was made in the family way, let's say, and that is basically referred to as a cursed baby, and is even more potent. Oh, especially because it was a firstborn boy.
Yeah, and it was caused her to smell of fish.
Yeah,
which repulsed people.
Now it starts to work. She starts looking younger. She starts feeling more vital. Her husband, who in a weird part of the plot for no real reason breaks his leg, gets sort of ravenously attracted to her. So she wants more potent stuff. And but there's a challenge when she's ordered the most potent one, and she can't help but be curious. She wants to look in. So she looks at the kitchen at, say, the raw, unprocessed ingredients. I hope you're following me, guys. That is shown in very upsetting detail. And she runs away in disgust. And in my favorite part of the story, she sits and then gathers her thoughts and goes back. And May is in the kitchen knowing she's coming back and getting, I will say, worked up over something. May also procures this extremely potent filling from a 15-year-old girl who, as we say, had her dad's help in assembling the ingredients. And the fate of that DIY, let's say, extraction of the dumpling filling material is shown in quite nasty detail. It's very upsetting, and then we later see that that girl does not fare well. She dies, and her mother, who has accompanied her, then kills her father. This is all sort of unseen by Mrs. Lee, but it starts to attract a bit of heat. It's ultimately the police following that lead that brings them to May and causes May to flee.
Yeah. And the police ransack the house, and man, these are well hidden. Oh man. That's ooh.
Yeah. Mrs. Lee, then finding out that she can't get her hands on May anymore, has also found out that the revitalizing properties have worked so well that she is now pregnant of her husband. And as she is not able to find May to get any fresh dumplings, oh gosh, how would you say it, Murgoot? I'm struggling for this one.
She goes for the hospital grade coat hanger.
Yeah.
In the bathtub.
In her bathtub, she does her own DIY dumpling filling extraction procedure. And the last shot of the film, of the section which I'm showing you now, is her munching a new dumpling, looking you directly in the eye.
Great, Dr. Prepper. Now I've got Sisters of Mercy adrenochrome running through my head.
Oh, are we allowed to say that?
Yes, we can.
Oh, brilliant. Adrenochrome, by the way.
It's a song title.
So appropriate that Hong Kong is an island. I gather this stuff happens on islands a lot. Anyway, there's a lot in this. There are so many ways we could go with this one. I'll also point out the director returned to this topic in 2019. He did a movie called The Abortionist, which was, I thought, a horror one. Like he was maybe returning to this, but no, he did that as a sort of drama, tense family drama film, which sounds interesting. Oh, and Wholesome Chicken Wrangler with an interesting facto. Is that true? Did Harry Styles release a song by the name of Adrenochrome? Is that right?
I have no clue. I don't pay attention to pop much.
Be blooming interesting. Apparently we're still monetized, so I guess we can say Adrenochrome all day long. Well, hey. Anyway, there are so many details in this that you could pick on. I'll go back to that first screen cap just because I was so fascinated by May's apartment. Like, there was a lot of effort into that set, and it got you thinking of lots of questions. Like, May has this, she's a client of the ultra rich, but she lives in this pretty shabby apartment.
Mm-hmm. She keeps a low profile. She's basically in a Kowloon city type situation where everybody's cramped together. And it's keeping a low profile, and the poor and indigent come to her for their needs, and she gets her needs met.
You wonder if maybe it's just a base of operations for her, but she also, it looks so lived in. Like, I loved how packed it was with artifacts. It's filled with traditional Chinese stuff. And there's a great section when Mrs. Lee is eating the dumplings for the first time, and May sings this traditional song about a rural area presumably where she comes from. I mean, she hints. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Murgoot.
When Aunt May walks off, she's carrying the traditional yoke with her baskets on either end, and just looks back once and then continues walking. So, yeah, she's old. She's peasant class kind of thing.
Yeah, I really got that. She's kind of this really old school China that has somehow managed to keep little bits around in the new China. Like, it feels so antiquated, and we'll dig into this, but those photos also give you an idea of just how old she is. I mean, we're talking very ancient. There are so many directions we could take this, Murgoot. I will pass you just an absolute freebie to take this wherever you want to go. What struck you about dumplings?
For one, the subject matter. That kind of caught me off guard. Two, the balance of color and keeping things intimate. And then at the hotel room, the sterility, and then the audio. The audio is just brilliant. The sound of her chewing all the way through the show, and the emphasis at the very end where she's chewing her fetus, and then the outro, the credits roll, and all you hear is chewing.
Oh, yes.
Chewing. And it's almost to the pulse of a heartbeat. That was just brutal.
Yeah, it's tough to listen to, stomach churning. I like what you said about the color as well. Yeah, in the apartment, it feels, I want to say, almost lurid. Like, these are quite oversaturated colors.
Yeah, the paintings of the girl and the boy on the dual paintings and the red for luck and prosperity,
Mm.
and the fact that she does back alley terminations. Almost said the no word.
It's a real juxtaposition, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, there's some extremely dark humor in this. I mean, this is some of the blackest humor going. Like those the little posters she has, very traditional, of like a happy smiling Chinese girl and a happy smiling boy on two little banners, and it's like they're meant to be that good luck and that fortune. It's like, yeah, but you're devouring those to get your luck and fortune. So we are talking pitch black comedy. But in the apartment, though, I think that slight oversaturation of color, it's kind of, and the way May acts, it's like she's got this this vitality in her, but this slightly sickening vitality. Like she has this inappropriate sort of arousal response to at certain moments. It's very odd.
Yeah, it's very off-putting, and by about halfway through the movie, you realize she's ancient and she's crazy as a bedbug.
Oh yeah, I mean she's just gleeful. She loves it. She kind of delights in how sick it is, you know, when she's getting to serve the extremely potent filling that is made of a cursed child. You know, she's absolutely delighting in it. She's loving how sick she gets to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it all stands out. It all stands out. I mean, what do you think the director was trying to get at with this treatment of that subject matter?
I don't know, but it's definitely a statement on population control, as you could say. It is commented, oh, this is very rare. People rarely do this to boys. That's what makes this one so special. It's a comment on China's one-child policy. It's a comment on Chinese folk medicine. It's just the old ways of doing things.
Yeah, there is that. I think you can't watch this without feeling the tension between the old ways and the new ways, sort of rubbing up against each other very uncomfortably. In the extended edition, as well as having his way with the masseuse, Tony Leung Kar-wai also visits Aunt May and gives her some stuffing for a change. Oh yeah. But yeah, that's only in the extended. But hang on. Adam Latara, thank you so much. Sending $5 and saying Alphaville Forever Young plays. I know the song. Yeah, Forever Young plays at the end for me. I want to be forever young. Reminds me of Body Bag's hair story with the lamb fetus by any means. Yeah, whoa, what a recall. Yes. You see, you stick with this channel, you start to pick up those wonderful obscure references. Yes. Dr. Prepper stuffing, yes, absolutely. He gives her Hargao a full filling. I mean, even that, I found that astounding. I was blown away by sort of how graphic the sex was in this, and I just I know it struck you as well how much they showed. It I mean, possibly I just have slightly misplaced how can I say a misplaced sense of what you can show on Chinese films, but this is far from the restrained thing I expected.
Well, this is Hong Kong versus mainland. Even though Hong Kong by this time was returned back to China, they still hadn't been fully overcome by mainland China.
No. And gosh, I haven't checked this, so I'll do it quickly now. But because we have a chap called Tony Leung, very well known in China, by the way. He did a film in 2007 called Lust Caution, directed by Ang Lee. Great film, really great film. I'm just checking now whether it was made in Hong Kong or not. There we go. Hong Kong. Yeah, confirmed. Right. So that was also Tony Leung was in that as well. And also that was notorious for extremely graphic sex scenes in a way that kind of shocked me. I might have told this story before, but I'll risk it again for anyone new. I saw that film in the UK. There'd been a bit of buzz about it when it came out in 2007. And I think people were sort of interested in like, oh, it's going to be a bit saucy. And it's very saucy, but it is also very Chinese. And I think there are some things that people weren't expecting. So after loads of build-up, it gets to the first... calling it a love scene is maybe a bit too delicate. But people are, shall we say, engrossed in the matter. But when your protagonist is sort of pinned back, arm behind the head by this very alpha male, Tony Leung, she hasn't shaved her armpits, and the audience all went, oh! Just like a few hundred people just weren't expecting unshaved armpits in the middle of a love scene and just all audibly reacted.
Watch about half of the French exploitation films and you'll see that. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise.
No. It just caught them all out. But I guess the point I'm trying to get to is clearly Hong Kong, you can show a lot. I mean, there's Lust Caution, there's this. I'm thinking of also a great little movie called One Night in Mongkok, which is savage, gritty, shows a lot. It's a really great film.
Mm-hmm.
But even so,
I haven't seen it. So
this caught me out, man. This caught me out.
Most of the Hong Kong theater stuff I've seen has either been kung fu movies or John Woo or his contemporaries. So, yeah, this is much progressed from that, from what I was always used to with Hong Kong cinema. So,
no, definitely. Jackie Chan would have never done this on screen. Yeah. John Goffris referencing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did that with a cute but dirty hippie hitchhiker. Oh, is that the unshaved underarms? Yeah, I remember that scene. That stuck in my head quite a lot. Really loved that film. Great little film. Anyway, sorry. So that was some of the graphic nature. We're still trying to get to what it was talking about. Some people have said, it's a bit about the one-child policy. I think it is, but maybe not in the way we expect it to be. It's one of those interesting ones where you really have to remember, and it's really impressed upon you, that this is a treatment of a delicate issue, and it is a treatment of that issue in a way that is decidedly non-Western.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a non-Western people and it's a non-Western context. And I think that can throw you off sometimes if you sort of make the standard assumption of what it's saying with a Western lens. That will not work here. I mean, I kind of got the vibe that this is talking about how the youth aren't protected. If it's talking about the one-child policy, it's maybe more in a sense of the younger being ground up or maybe it's not even the one-child policy. It's literally about the youth of China are being ground up to maintain the old regime, but said in a very coded way, which you would have to do. I mean, that Hong Kong had been handed over 7 years ago at the time this was made, but you would still want to be very careful how you phrased any criticisms.
Well, it is mentioned that procuring a boy is very rare in this day and age because of everybody wants a boy. And the fact that even Hong Kong didn't have that policy, it was still, with them going over to China, they don't have the space, they don't have the money for another child, and boys are always preferable. And which China's since reversed. I'm not going to go into the geopolitics of it, but at the time, boys were much preferable. If you didn't have the money for it, you couldn't afford a second child, let alone a girl.
Yeah. I actually featured this story in a video I did a while ago. If no one has seen it, I did an analysis of pro-life and pro-choice messages in horror movies and how those different messages are conveyed in very different ways. And I featured dumplings. So I think there's also a potential reading about how, I mean, this feels like more of a Western imposition, but the fact that Mrs. Lee doesn't have any children of her own, but she's trying to, consume what she's consuming here in order to stay young for the benefit of her career. That felt like a very pointed comment as well on that practice.
The fact that she was infertile and now she is fertile and about to have a child. It's just one of those things.
The sacrificing the young for career and the economy, who are not good, not good. Or even just for prolonging the status of being the maiden. In the maiden mother crone series of transitions, trying to reverse that, trying to stay out of that. You can read that into it as well, which I also think is really interesting. And how do you, if you don't want to go into sort of the next phase, if you don't want to transition to become the mother, well, yeah, you can't have the kid. You have to keep the children out of the picture in order to do that. So you can read that as well. Oh, Wholesome Chicken Wrangler. That was Michelle Williams. And yes, I did indeed feature her speech when I made that comparison. Yeah. And the NREAB, crikey, that sounds like you've had a heck of a night. Goodness me, it sounds a bit like the Twilight Zone episode we watched last week, actually. Gosh. We've also got a recommendation, One Child Nation, a documentary touching on the one-child policy. Thank you, Adam. I am aware, I don't have a great deal of knowledge of that particular policy, so I'm limiting my commentary a little bit. But yeah, I'm conscious of the time. Is there anything else you would want to comment on about dumplings?
I think we've, aside from what I've already said, it's one of the more effective endings to a horror movie I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's just get about when she's looking you in the eye. I mean, this is the thing about the social message. I think when you have a character looking you directly in the eye, it's a sort of, here's the issue. What are you going to do about it? What do you think about it? I want you to come to a decision about it. Sort of challenge. I guess if we haven't emphasized it enough, I really love that they got past the gross out really early. I mean, there was continued gross out, but to use Stephen King's sort of typologies of horror, where he has the lowest level of horror is the gross out. We get that early on. Then you've got horror where there's sort of deep anticipation and fear of something coming at you. So kind of like the fear of the gross out almost. And then there's a top level terror, which is a sort of deeply unnerving, right down to the brain, touching on really disturbing issues, really sort of unsettling your whole worldview, that terror at the top. I'm not saying this really lands it, but
it certainly hits the first two and takes a teasing step onto the third level at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It moves past the first two, and I love that about it. As we said, I'm sorry if I've said this already, folks, but it would be so easy to just reveal the contents of the dumplings in the last act. Oh my gosh. And it doesn't bother, moves past it, goes into interesting territory. My favorite bit being when she knows full well what's in the dumpling. She has seen it and she's sickened, but she then goes back. That was the most interesting part of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I love that. And Dr. Prepper, absolutely. Yeah, great comparison. The last shot of Eden Lake, perfect. Exact same thing. A look in the camera. Here's the serious issue I've presented. What do you think about it? Great comparison. Yeah, so I love this. I think it just elevated the material. I saw it ages ago and it didn't really impress me. On this viewing, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry, I've hogged this one, Murgoot. I've hogged it.
No problem, no problem. This one definitely set me on edge. I was telling you earlier that I watched the first 5 minutes. I turned it off because it wasn't what I was expecting, and then went back to it the next day and watched it again, and was pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised by the ending of it. I really enjoyed it as a horror movie, but it definitely set my teeth on edge from the start.
And just to check, do you feel any curiosity about watching the full version, the expanded one?
Some. I'm very hesitant because this is so self-contained. It really does. I don't think it needs to be expanded all that much.
No. I looked at the expanded, and luckily they don't do the kind of. It looks like they don't do the time wasting stuff that we predicted.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you'd slap 15 minutes on at the start before she even gets to May. But yeah, I think this is so good that I'm hesitant to watch the expanded just because I think the story is lovely and concise. But with that said, we'll do a roundup when we get to the end. Shall we move on now to story 2?
Yeah, let's move on to Cut.
All right, over to you.
By Park Chan-wook. And it opens with famous director Ryo Ji-ho, played by Lee Byung-ho. And you don't see him at first. You see a woman gnawing on the neck of an older gentleman, and he's just standing there, and she's draining him of blood, and it keeps going for an uncomfortably long period of time, and then she falls to the ground and pukes up all the blood, and Ryo yells cut and print, and it shows everybody around him, all of his production crew. And it sets it off. He's like, everybody take the night off. I'm going to work on this some more. And then speaks to everybody politely and gives recommendations, and very nice dagger you've picked out and everything like that. And then he goes home. Well, he takes one of his aides home.
Yes.
And then he goes to his house, or what looks like his house. And he's starting to make it a point of, you must eat your vegetarian meal. And he starts putting it in the blender and making the green smoothie. Yuck.
Oh, not a fan? Not a fan.
No.
Too much kale.
But he's running the blender, and all of a sudden the light shut out, the blender shuts off, and there's a silhouette going across the front of the camera. And the next thing you know, he's knocked out, and he wakes up, and his hands are tied, and he sees his wife at the piano, and he sees a crazy man in a miner's outfit with black coal streaks, or makeup resembling coal streaks. It's, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And it's, well, if you don't do what I say, every 5 minutes I'm going to cut one of your wife's fingers off. And she's at her piano in a wire rig, and he super glues her fingers to the piano keys. And let's see.
This is why I made you do this one, because I struggled with this. I lost track of what was happening so much.
I'm trying to do the 2 minute. The psycho then explains, I'm doing it just because. And every 5 minutes he gives him a new test, and it turns out that Rio is rubber banded to the wall through a hole in the wall, and he can't get at the psycho, and he keeps getting dragged back. And it's the psycho looks at him and says, if you don't strangle this young girl on the couch in 5 minutes, I'll cut another finger off. And
he's not a Hollywood director, so he can't do anything terrible to a young girl on a couch.
Yeah, he thinks about it, and he strains and stresses. And it's, no, I can't do this. Of course not. You're a good man. Why did you have to be rich and a good man? And it comes out that it's a class thing. Poor versus rich. And it's even the Bible quote, a rich man has a harder time than a camel going through the eye of a needle.
Yeah, it's easier for a rich man for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yes. And the psycho turns around and said, wrong. Rich men have it easy, and they don't have to make the hard choices. They can always get to heaven because they don't have to make the hard choices. And comes out the psycho has strangled his wife, attempted to strangle his son, and couldn't do it. And why couldn't I be a good person? And Rio attempts to strangle the girl on the couch, and the wig falls out, and it turns out it's the psycho's son.
So Hollywood, it hurts. You've entered the Bryan Singer zone.
Yeah, it's in through test after test, she's losing fingers, and Rio makes a confession that he cheated on his wife, and he doesn't like her because all she's concerned about is Botox and plastic surgery and money, and he's fallen out of love. And it's the psycho says, "You have 5 minutes to make me laugh," and Rio does a little dance and faces the wall and drops his pants and dances some more. All the while, the psycho's sitting there smiling until Rio turns around, and then he's all serious. Tells him that's obvious. Rio tries to kill the boy again, and the boy's like, "I'll give." And it comes down to the psycho making a mistake and slipping on the ring off of the ring finger and landing in the wires. And much like life imitating art, she bites out his carotid artery, and he starts bleeding out, and the son swears vengeance. And then Rio's mind snaps and starts talking about, "Well, I've always loved you." And then he looks back and looks forward and walks over to his wife and starts strangling her. And then that's why I have to strangle the boy. And he strangles his wife instead of the boy, and that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, I think he's kind of lost his mind in all of it by the end.
Yeah, and one of the points I forgot was he stretches out far enough that when he rebounds back, the set wall falls down, and he's not at his apartment. He's at the set.
Yeah, it's a lot happening. It's a lot happening. It is also, and thank you for summarizing it, because as I said, I've really struggled with this one, and I thought this would be my favorite segment because I really like Chan-wook Park. For fans of his, I don't know if I said it already. Yes, I think I said, yeah, you know him best for Old Boy. We're seeing a lot of things that are his, I guess, like a condensed version of what he likes to do. Like, we have an obsession with Western stuff. So that opening movie that they're covering is very, very vampire based, and in fact, he would go and direct a vampire-based movie called, a movie taking some inspiration from vampires, shall we say, called Stoker. Later on, I think he also directed a vampire film called Thirst. I'll just confirm that because I don't know if I'm misremembering. Also, Stoker was written by Wentworth Miller of Prison Break. And one episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yes, he did. Thirst, 2009. I thought so. Right.
Yeah. I do like when the lifelike doll of the old man who she's biting on. I do like the fact that the psycho's pacing around the apartment and turns the corner and sees the mannequin, lifelike mannequin, and that's just kind of funny.
It was a nice moment. I mean, Chan Wook Park, he likes high energy. I see people are fans of Old Boy here, I'm sure. And that goes for, extreme operatics, right? He likes extreme high energy stuff. He's not shy about convoluted stuff and unreal stuff. Old Boy is high concept, hard to believe, but it also gets a whole film to slowly bring you, to bring you into the world and convince you of it.
Yeah.
Whereas it's very condensed here, which I found quite difficult. But
well, I like the fact that the Psycho's motivations, part of it comes from class, part of it comes from his father beating him as a kid, part of it's jealousy, part of it is it's mixed motivation, then it just comes down to the fact that he's psychotic.
Yeah. You get that. He gets to show off as well. I mean, that actor gets to have a really great time. And he's not even the biggest name from what I can tell. Like your director there is a guy called Lee Byung-hun, who is a big name in Korea. He was he's headed some big stuff. So a film I really like called A Bittersweet Life, Joint Security Area, which was an early Chan Wook Park. Also, I Saw the Devil, which loads of people love, and I just could not get into at all. Also, The Wife is by Gang Ji-hong, who was Mido in Old Boy.
Yeah.
But she doesn't get to do anything. She doesn't get to say anything in the whole film. Well, barely gets to say anything or do anything in this. I felt like, oh, it's such a shame that they had her there and she doesn't. She just gets to scream.
Yeah, I just looked up his name, the stranger, the psycho, M1. He's primarily theater and stage, from what I see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he was getting to do big stuff. I mean, I'll admit, I struggled with this one. I did love his dance number. It had that kind of off the wall energy that quite worked for me.
Yeah, you don't expect the screen extra to be that good of a dancer. Well, good comparatively.
No.
But yeah, it was an interesting breakdown, watching the Psycho breakdown even further, and then Rio breaking down, and the wife breaking down, and even the son claiming vengeance and breaking down. It's societal collapse in miniature. So
lots of tensions there. I just found this narrative difficult. I mean, Dr. Prepper said it. I think, to be honest, he's captured how I felt about it. The convoluted plot and tonal shifts. Yeah, I think that's it. Being thrown in with very high energy and lots of artificiality and meta stuff. They're clever, but it made it hard to connect with it, even while there are elements I really liked.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the weirdness of the chutzpah of saving money by saying, "Oh yeah, my apartment looks exactly like our set."
Yeah, the just the dark humor brought me into it, and watching the breakdown of the Psycho, just trying to unravel exactly what he's talking about, and the surprise that the little girl is actually his son, and just bringing in points that I didn't know whether to be shocked or just laugh. Just because the cruel jokes throughout the whole thing.
Oh,
just
totally.
made it for me.
It's a very sick sense of humor, constantly. There were some great bits. There were some nice subtle details, like just when he's driving home. I don't know if I've got this confused though, because maybe you can correct me. As I said, I struggle to follow it. I like the detail that he's driving, he's talking to someone, he's got the assistant in the car, then he gets home and she's not in there, and I was like, oh, did he take her somewhere? Do you know? Was this something like, is this a little hint about infidelity early on? You know?
Maybe. Don't know.
So I like that. That was interesting.
I love the ridiculousness of the industrial rubber band going through the wall and across the hall and up the stage wall to the ceiling, and him just looking at it like, how the hell am I going to deal with that?
Did you get sort of, I picked up on basically Joe Dante energy with this one?
Joe Dante or let me see real quick. Joe Dante is a good one.
If that's not ringing bells with anyone, that'd be the director of Gremlins and also the middle segment of the Twilight Zone movie. A guy who is very happy with off the wall, in fact, fourth wall smashing. Yeah, very happy indeed.
Well, Gremlins, that's a good point. Just the manic energy and the absolute weirdness of the details in a frightening situation. Just looking around and, okay, that's scary. How do I get out of this? What the hell? But yeah, just that energy is there.
There's a cute little thing as well, like the start, the film where you're seeing a woman drain blood from a guy's neck and then vomit it up, which is exactly what happens with his wife at the end. You know, nice little callback, nice little setup. But yeah,
it's one of those that I don't know how to explain it. I mean, there's just subtle little digs. It isn't very deep aside from the Psycho's exposition. And even that falls kind of short when he just goes full raving loony. I did like the matching wedding rings. And that was a good Chekhov's gun going back and forth between the rings. And then the Psycho slipping on the wife's ring that's laying on the floor in the pool of blood. That was a good detail.
Yeah, there are some very good detail catches in it. I don't like to rain on the parade. I just I think the phrase I used with you before we started was just I couldn't connect to it.
Yeah.
And so I was left bemused and confused by so much. There was just so much happening.
I liked the manic energy. I liked the theater of the absurd and the dark humor. And it just kept me entertained through the whole thing. I won't say it was deep, but it was very entertaining. It's almost like a shorter Death Becomes Her or War of the Roses type thing. Just the violent juxtapositions. It's a very black comedy. And it kept me entertained throughout. That's why I really like it. So
that's fair enough.
So it was also a refreshing change from Dumplings.
Oh yeah, wild change of pace. Absolutely wild. Just nothing in common with each other whatsoever. But again, I just have the feeling, I tried to find more on this, but I think they were pretty much just given their money and said, do what you like, have fun, make your own little movie, and we'll slop them together.
Yeah, but I found this one a lot of fun. It wasn't so much horrifying, it's just macabrely humorous. Macabre. Yeah. However you put it.
Macabrely. Yeah, I think macabrely is a good... It's not asking you to take it particularly seriously.
Yeah.
It's for that. Kind of Tales from the Crypt energy. A little bit of that. A little bit of that.
It's... Okay.
I had nothing else on it, I'm afraid. I feel like a failure just because I could not connect to it.
Don't worry about it. I connected well to it, and there's not much to say about it. Just the manic black humor, and it was a refreshing change.
Yeah. All right, groovy. Shall we move on to... Oh, I'm getting back up. Thank you, Years. Cheers. It is a kind of thing, though, in some commentary, a lot of the time it is going to come down to just, I didn't vibe with this. And that's 100% okay. Like, we can nitpick. Tell you what, Dumplings we're fans of. There's a bit in Dumplings where the first time she realizes that she's absolutely stinking because of the extremely potent dumplings she's had. And do you remember, Murgoot? She's having dinner with high society friends.
Mm-hmm.
But she's
beef off.
Yeah.
Fish.
Oh, it's great stuff. But she panics over the smell, and she sort of starts making a sort of very fragrant flowery bath. Also, hello, Rory Herbert. Good to see you in the chat, man. Haven't seen you for an age. I hope you're okay. Hope you're having a good start to your new year. Also, hi, Devonte. I didn't see that earlier. Good to see you, man. She's having that dinner. She's worried about the smell. She runs to the bathroom to refresh herself and makes this extremely flowery bath and then goes in it. And I just thought, hang on, have you left all the ladies there while you have a bath? What happened to them? I thought if Harrion was here, he'd freak out over that bit. He'd be confiscating all the burgers over that bath and wondering what happened to the ladies at dinner. But I can forgive it just because I really like the vibe of Dumplings.
It's... Of the three, I think Dumplings is the most effective horror. And then Cut was the most fun.
Yeah. I mean, we can point out technical details. We can point out some objective things. A lot of this is just going to be, I like my horror this way. And there's no arguing around that. That's just own it. Just be like, yeah, I like the manic energy, or no, I like PhD thesis level symbolism. And I will forgive shoddy films if I can make a lovely reach and a metaphor in it. So we're just declaring our biases here.
And if it's a shoddy film and it's fully entertaining, and yes, I know the film is crap, but I laughed my head off throughout the whole thing. I'm thoroughly entertained.
Yeah. So, sometimes you're just wanting to be entertained, and if it did the job, fantastic. I was trying to think. Yez and I were having this discussion about something a while ago. About it was a really simple film. It wasn't ambitious, but it did the job well. I'm trying to remember what that film was. Yez, if you remember, let me know. But I know we had that discussion. Maybe you can help me out. All right. So, shall we move on to the third and final, if you're okay?
Yeah, I will let you take on the box. And I will be right back.
Absolutely. That is it. Yes, Blackcoat's Daughter. Yeah, we're saying not super elaborate. Was it that? I mean, that was a very pretty simple plot, but the details made it utterly incredible. So sort of simple story told unbelievably well. Yeah, maybe it was that. Or maybe that's when we had the conversation. Yeah, thank you, Yes. Much appreciated. Let's switch over to this. So this is our third story, directed by Takeshi Miike. As I said, you will know him from Audition, which we've covered. You're also going to see a little bit more of him next week. We're covering the segment that he did for Masters of Horror, which was so extreme that they would not show it on TV. So obviously we have to cover it. But also did a fair amount of just out there weird stuff. He has done everything from the weird kind of parody musical Happiness of the Categories to Dead or Alive and Dead or Alive 2, which are weird crime, Yakuza plus magic films. They are not taking themselves seriously. To more surreal, disturbing stuff like Gozu, Visitor Q, and of course, Ichi the Killer. And I'm pretty sure a few of you have said you've seen Ichi the Killer, if I recall. Yes, it's going to be one of those. I'm pretty sure some of you have said you appreciated Ichi the Killer. What I'm trying to get across with that is with Takeshi Miike, his limits are extremely out there, but you don't know if he's going to go for that. He might really push the envelope, but equally, he might give you something very restrained, like Audition. Oh, there we go. Dollfacer likes Ichi the Killer, and John Garris is in favor of Yakuza Apocalypse. I haven't seen that one. Anyway, so we go into this. We know it's Takeshi Miike. You do not know what you're going to get, and this time he's pushed something that is much more restrained. And I'm afraid I got this one, Murgoot, because I had one thought and one thought only. Oh, husband, you are burned down the circus. Now we are homeless. I had to ruin it, but I saw this and I just thought of the meme.
I hadn't even thought of that one.
And now you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
All right. Brilliant. I blooming love this one. It is called Box. It is not the thing you think it will be. It twists and turns. It goes through all sorts, but is incredibly restrained. You're basically getting Takeshi Miike giving you another Audition style, heavy mood, heavy symbolism, very restrained. And I absolutely love it. So I will go through it quickly. We have here Kyoko, who is, from what we gather, an author and a successful one. She's meeting her agent. Everything feels off. Everything feels tense and timid and slightly alienated. The sound is muted, or occasionally the sound is too loud. They're playing with the music volumes there. You start to wonder why, if she's a really successful author, why is she in this crappy, decaying, decrepit building? You've got all these things that are unsettling you and making you distrust what you see. Kyoko is quiet, but also kind of dominant in a way. She's wrapped up in these extreme layers that you saw at the start, but then she stays so silent when her agent is trying to talk to her, and she approaches him slowly unwrapping the coat. It's done so slow. You're wondering what she got on under there. You know, are we seeing something odd? But then she's just wearing a blue coat. You're kept transfixed by the pace of it.
Yeah.
Just wonderful stuff. We then move into slightly more typical J-horror trappings here. So the mood of, think of something like mostly Ring, let's say, where I'll also throw in The Eye. Now, I know The Eye is Hong Kong, that's the Pang brothers, but because there was a use of an elevator, I have to bring in The Eye. So your classic trope of small, unsettling ghost, you don't see the face, just people off in the distance, not responsive. Urban environment, very dark water as well from Hideo Nakata.
Well, the definite use of a stark winter palette, all the blues and the muted greens and the dark, dim beige and white. And
Oh yes, yeah. It's the J horror color palette, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's very much what we're told. What we were sort of given to expect around this time. And remember, this is also 2004. This is peak J horror. This is when we're starting to see those remakes come in and people get in on this vibe. But yeah, the classic sort of, there's a ghost that's not, or sorry, a person who may be a spirit who's not responsive to you, who disappears. You don't see the face. I love this shot so much, so much. You're just kept uneasy by it. Kyoko also sees the young figure, refers to it as her sister, Shoko, and we get a shot of her wearing something of a mask. And Kyoko calls out to her and is sort of freaked out that she doesn't respond and gets increasingly worked up, breaking the previously very reserved, very timid behavior. So we see a bit of a character break there. We know it's tender. And then we get a bit of a flashback. And we see that she used to be in a slightly odd circus. And it's a weird construction, again, like the office building, that doesn't match the level of success we're told she has. The circus is high level, but also it's tiny. Like, this is high quality circus stuff, but it's in such a tiny tent that it seems unreal. The wizard here, wizard. I don't know, I should say magician, really, shouldn't I? What's his name? Darn it, what is his name?
Is
Higata.
Higata.
Thank you. Higata. Higata is the magician who leads the act. He has his face half covered, you'll notice, by a latex mask. And he is running the show in which Shoko and Kyoko, as 10-year-olds, do ballet performance and then do some contortion. They fit into tiny boxes and then they disappear from the boxes, and they the boxes are revealed to have been filled with flowers. We see that the magician Higata is extremely strict on them, really favors Shoko, gives her a necklace, and Kyoko is jealous of it, of this whole thing. She wants to be his favorite. How can I say, their relationship with the magician is very, very unsettling. And is he a straight up nonce? Don't know. There's plenty of imagery to suggest he is. He's seen sleeping clothed beside a clothed Shoko, but it's all a bit weird. It's all a bit dodgy. I lean towards yes. It's very creepy. Anyway, jealous of her sister being the favorite, Kyoko, locks her sister in the box while she's practicing, and then aims to go and I presume, seduce the wizard. I keep saying wizard, magician. Higata. Except he discovers her. He's angry. She scratches him, and then accidentally knocks over a heater, which pours oil out and burns down the circus, including the box that her sister is in. This is meant to be the traumatic memory that sticks with her and why she's so traumatized, so withdrawn as an adult. And she keeps seeing herself back outside that circus tent and the tree beside it in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Can't escape that imagery. And she feels drawn back there. If this sounds quite hard to follow, it kind of is. You're not exactly sure whether she's there or not. So there's an instance where she appears in full costume and from the circus, and it appears she's now taking on the role of magician to do some performance art. And she's found there by her agent, who looks incredibly like Higata. But it gets weirder. So as we said, we're not sure whether Higata was actually Nancy. Well, here is this. Oh dear, Dr. Prepper. Murgoot, how's your Hagrid? Can you have a go at that one?
No.
Oh, fair play.
I might look like Robbie Coltrane, but I can't do the voice.
Ari. So here's some wonderful, disturbing imagery. If it was hard to follow before, folks, it's going to get more difficult. Continuing to dream of the circus tent, she wanders in the snow and then collapses and starts having a heightened physiological response, if you will. We see this cross-cut with Higata.
Breaking the doll.
Who has a doll, yes, who he rubs and contorts. And this is mimicked on it, but it's not exactly voodoo because she doesn't contort into the positions that the doll is contorted into. But she does respond to the touch in a very, I don't know, she's clearly kind of overwhelmed and aroused by it.
Very, very creepy.
Extremely creepy, unsettling, I'd say. Uncomfortable. Would those be fair, Murgoot?
Uncomfortable, creepy, bad touch vibes.
Very, very. And it gets weirder. As the doll is wrapped in plastic starts appearing around her. She wraps herself in it. She finds herself back in the circus tent where she sees the box. Interestingly, the box is half burned. I don't have a picture of that, actually. The box is half burned at a slant. The way Higata's mask is. What that means, I am unsure. But it seems a real connection. Anyway, she's drawn back to this scene of the trauma as an adult. She opens the box. There is horror. There's something horrific in there. She backs away, and then Higata appears. And because it wasn't creepy and uncomfortable enough, Higata then pounces on her, half molesting her, half upbraiding her, saying that he loved her 10-year-old sister just as, or wondering who is more beautiful, her 10-year-old sister or her at 25. She's kind of paralyzed with fear, kind of paralyzed with arousal. It's an extremely uncomfortable scene, and it's really hard to convey. You're not sure if he's trying to sort of I guess like harangue and harass her or molest her. You don't know. But he makes her look at the box, and then very classic J horror here. The box opens. There's a hideous
Partial
visage in
shot
there.
of her burned sister with a red eye.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking out just enough. And she's made to look at this. She's not allowed to close her eyes. And then after this, she's breaking down weeping. Higata kisses her. She then tries to like win his approval by kissing him back, but he doesn't really go for it. And then he takes the lead and kisses her again, and then pulls plastic over her head, basically almost asphyxiating her, then dragging her off, and then says he loves them both, but he has to love them as one. He then buries her in the box, presumably along with her sister, and then buries that box. And at that point, she wakes up. How confused were you at that point, Murgoot?
I was and I wasn't. I thought there was going to be a catch with it, and there was. I wasn't quite sure, but I kind of sort of figured it out. It wasn't quite what I expected, but I figured it was going to be something body horror. Not quite the Siamese twin, but disfigurement of some kind is what I was thinking. And then it shows her talking to her sister, and then both of them, she leverages her sister up as she sits up, and then the end shot of seeing them as conjoined twins was, that was the money shot right there.
Yeah. You get imagery to show them sort of rebinding together like this. What did Takashi Miike mean by this? The symbol of strength and unity, bringing them all together. Thank you, Takeshi. Very cool. The reveal, as you say, the money shot. Kyoko is 25 and has a conjoined sister who hasn't developed, is still looking 10 years old, and says she has this dream every night. Her sister has a slightly different dream. And then we have it, and this is them waking up, and yes, she appears to be an author because the trappings of her author's desk are still there, but the house looks a lot nicer. So that thing I thought at the start of, if she's a super successful author, why is her place looking like Swindon? And we have the answer. It was meant to be weird. You were meant to be clued in that this was not real. Wonderful stuff. But from then on, it is just up to you to do some interpretation. So I guess I feel I have to ask Murgoot, what mean?
The fevered dream of a former circus freak? I don't know. It's this one, excuse the pun, it left me a bit cold. So this one was too much of a slow burn for me. The imagery was very good. The color palettes were very good. The noncery bugged me. The implied noncery, I should say. But they hit on things that didn't really jive with what I was seeing in the film, and it kind of took me out of it, especially the fact that it was so slow to me. It didn't have the manic energy of Cut, and it didn't have the psycho pixie energy of Dumplings.
I like Psycho Pixie as a description. Yeah.
As a closer, it was too much of a slow burn. I'd almost rather have dumplings and box reversed in position to make it more effective.
Yeah. I guess it's such a slow opener that it would maybe be too slow for an opener.
Yeah.
I'd be tempted maybe to put it in the middle, but
that's a good point.
I mean, I'll hazard a guess at it if I will. Whether they were ever in a circus, I'm not sure, but I thought since they have the idea of themselves performing and contorting and ending up in a box, right? A lot of the stuff they have to do is about constriction and constraint. So even though, you're contortionist, you're actually really constrained in what you can do. So each of them, people want to see them and they are constrained into a box. And that constraint is basically the symbolism for them being conjoined. Yes, they appear together, but they are extremely restricted in what they can do. You'll later see that when Kyoko does performance art, what she does is also extreme restriction. So she's one of those, what do you call living statues? Where just someone just stands with a mask and doesn't move unless you give them money.
Yeah, it's after realizing that they're conjoined twins, you realize the limitations of being a sport or being a freak worthy of the circus really constrains you physically because of your defect, and also emotionally and publicly because of the looks of horror or pity or perverse wonderment really limits that too.
Definitely. And I have the feeling like Kyoko's dream has her really guilty. Like there's so much guilt in Kyoko's dream. And I think it's linked to that limitation. So the really disturbing noncery that we see, I almost wonder, is that kind of worry that if she's trying to live an adult life, how can I say, she can't really have a relationship without sort of exposing Shoko to it. It's like if she were to do any of that, it would be effectively foisting it on Shoko.
I think Dr. Prepper hits some of it on the head with that. You might say that she feels suffocated, and that part of her wants to be rid of her sister. The dream is partly a nightmare, but could also be a form of wish fulfillment.
Yeah. Or a manifestation of guilt about her desire for independence. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's telling, like she locks her sister in the box because her sister doesn't develop, her sister doesn't age. And yeah, there is that wonder about going out on your own, the desire to, but also the impossibility of it.
Yeah.
Did you notice a weird little detail? When the agent speaks to her at the start and she hands over a manuscript, he says she's left-handed.
Yeah, that was a detail that, as it progressed, became more and more important.
Yes.
But that's an odd detail. I wonder what that's leading to, is all I thought at the time. That and a bloody dart in her dream. Well, initially, I didn't know it was a dream, but the bloody dart was another one that I picked up on, that it's That's blood. She
Mm,
stabbed somebody with it.
yes. I mean, we get that explained. I mean, is that sort of is that driving a lover away? Is that driving a father away? I don't know. Adam Loves Horrors picked up where I was going to go with that. So when you see them as conjoined, and I apologize, I don't have the image of that. So the adult-looking Kyoko has the right hand on her side, and Shoko has the left hand on her side, which would imply that it's actually Shoko doing the writing, creating the stories.
Yeah.
Or the creative side is Shoko, and remembering that Kyoko has a kind of inferiority complex around that. She always believes that Shoko is more loved.
Yeah. Bye, Yiz.
Oh, bye, Yiz. And hope your stream goes well. In fact, folks, head over to Yiz's channel after we're done if you want. Give friends support friends around here. The layers of information are deep in this, I think. But I think a lot is bound up around wish fulfillment, about feeling that she's kind of directing her sister's life. You know, I think that the left hand writing is actually very key. And I would read that as almost she feels like she's dominating and she feels guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or that the success comes at her sister's expense.
Yeah.
It's odd though, isn't it? Because that payoff, that revelation, that money shot, as you say, it is very brief at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly because, you know, it's maybe not the best looking shot in the world. I think it's fair to say. I'm not being cruel about that.
Budget.
Yeah.
They tried. Let's just say that.
They tried. I mean, it is sort of odd with a section that was so big on the visuals, so gorgeous. I mean, I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, that final shot is not an award winner. Bless it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was captivated by this one, Murgoot. I thought it was gorgeous. Reminded me of a book called The Night Circus by Sarah Morgenstern.
I haven't read that one.
I'll throw that out as an odd recommendation for people. Something that's got that slightly odd logic to it. But this one didn't work for you as much. I'm sad to hear it, but I get it.
Well, the imagery was great, but it was just too slow. And the payoff wasn't as nearly as good as the other two. It was almost too subtle for the rest of the film.
It does feel like it's very much of a different piece. I mean, they're all very different, but this really is kind of out there.
Yeah.
This is the one I'd want to see developed into a much fuller thing. As interesting as it is, as compact as the ideas are, it has almost. I mean, I loved it, but I wouldn't argue if anyone wanted to say it had a slight anticlimax to it. Would that be fair?
Yeah. It kind of dragged down the rest of the movie at the end. I mean, it's very well done, and it's an effective story, but I think you're right. It needed to be in the middle. Just open with a bang, go subtle, and then close with manic weirdness. Would have been better overall.
Yeah, manic weirdness is the way to. You definitely go for a high energy finish, I think.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain my feelings any better than that. So
I imagine that. I mean, I don't think you go. My impression is you don't go for the things that just go into extreme discomfort and like very awkward watching. And this is awkward to watch.
I like things more visceral, awkward, especially awkward comedy, awkward suspense. It's, I don't know why, but the awkwardness, more awkward a situation is, the more awkward I feel and just want to fade away from it.
Yeah, the scene with her and the doll, and just like in Dumplings, the sounds of the doll are so amped up that it's kind of an ASMR response almost. Which just made it really visceral.
Yeah, that was one of the better points of horror in the movie, in the story. So, other than that, as a film as a whole, the anthology as a whole, I did really like it. The individual stories. Dumpling was the most effective, but I enjoyed Cut a lot more just because of the humor in it. And then Box was just too slow for me.
Understandable. I Rory Herbert making a good point. Yes, 14 likes and rising. Yeah, that's a fine number, but let's bump that up, boys. It's a rookie numbers. You got to get those up. And folks on the rewatch, if you got this far, you absolutely have to press that like. Go on. Slap that like in the box. That's how we do it around here. Good phrasing. Good. Yeah. I did say we would get our preferences quite wildly different on this one, Murgoot. I knew we would.
Yeah.
Shall we move into sort of final thoughts and scoring then?
Sure. Let's start from the top. Dumplings.
Let's do it. And chat, by the way, if you watch this, I want to hear your thoughts as well. So get them in the comments. Especially order of preference will be good. Yes. So go on, Murgoot.
Dumplings, I give a solid 8.5 burgers with a little bit of cheese and a lot of, speculative garnishes.
Should I say dollar meat store? It's the old dollar meat store at play.
Yeah. Cut, I give a good solid 9 because I got a good laugh out of it, along with a good creep out. And I give a good solid 8 to Box. It was very well done, very well shot, good story, but it was too slow. But
okay, all right.
I would recommend it to most people.
Nice. I mean, it is a bit of variety. It's quite varied. Yeah. I thought there'd be a slightly bigger disparity there, so I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah.
Does it make you want to seek out the original?
3 Extremes 2?
Yes, well, for Americans, the original that is pretending to be the sequel in America.
Yeah, the same place I found my copy has number 2.
I trust you mean like a Walmart DVD aisle.
Oh no, it's fully legal with ads.
Oh, is it? Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
I fully legal with ads.
Oh, well done in that case, because we're seeing Adam Loves Horror has gone in with Dumplings 9, so a bit higher rated than you. Cut rated a bit lower than you, and Box rated lower than you. So You said 8 for box. Did you say 8
Yes.
for box? Yes.
Yes, I did.
That's very
For the
respectful.
For the
That's very-
technicality of it, yes, I'm giving it an 8.
Very respectful. Dr. Prep has gone for another 9 for dumplings. A little higher rating on cut at 7 and box 10 out of 12. Nice. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Well, for me, dumplings, I think I would rate higher, but I know I'm missing so much cultural context with that one. But at the same time, it did just make me interested. It made me want to do some research. So I don't think I really want to mark it down for that because it's like me not knowing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So dumplings, because of the weird places it went to, that for me is a 9. It was genuinely hard to watch. I was squicked. It was gross. I did have a few look away from the screen moments, which I did not expect. So yeah, the 9 feels very, very fine for what it does. I mean, let's be honest, it wastes a fair bit of time. The stuff with the masseuse getting banged and the husband breaking his leg for no darn reason doesn't really go anywhere. So I'll drop it for that, but it becomes interesting. Cut is where I didn't connect to it. I struggled with it. There were interesting ideas. There was big manic energy. It's largely personal preference. I thought Gan Hye-jung was wasted in it, which was sad. I couldn't connect to it.
Yeah.
I will probably leave it at a slightly harsh 6 because I just felt it did not cohere.
Fair.
And yeah, it didn't cohere, but it was very stylish. So we'll go for a 6 on that one. And box, I'm not going to argue that was let down by the final reveal. Not looking super good, and that ultimately the trouble with a sort of a dream interpretation one is you have to feel your time is well used, and that's hard to do. Like something like Mulholland Drive nails it. Something like Triangle nails it, although people would disagree with me reading Triangle that way. But I'm not going to take much. I mean, I don't want to copy your score exactly there, Dr. Prepper, but I do agree strongly. I maybe lean towards a 10.5 because I just thought it was so beautiful. It was so intriguing. It had such great ideas. Really stood out. Very unique vision. Restrained itself when it needed to. I think 10.5 for me. That was a standout. And we have a score from Waifu there. Dumplings 9 out of 12. Yes, you found that very hard to watch. I remember. Cut 5.5 out of 12. Ooh, bit harsher than me. Bit harsh, but largely seeing eye to eye on that one. And yes, you didn't manage the last one. Patrick Batman. If it interests you, as Murgoot found out, you can find it on Tubi, free with ads, and I gather other places on the internet. Not that I know too much about that. And Patrick Batman, just as I'm chatting to you there, you're dropping £5. Thank you ever so much. You've got an actual book recommendation for you, The Watcher in the Rain, a horror story from the Warhammer 40k universe.
I'll second
Nice.
that one. Very tense.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested. Oh, guys, I mean, I got out of Games Workshop a while ago. You're going to lure me back in. So what's the idea? Is it around the horrors of the warp or something? I'm intrigued.
The Watcher in the Rain, it's horror suspense. It's not too action-packed. It's a slow burn, but it is very good. It's been a while since I've read it.
Okay, I'm making a note. Read The Watcher in the Rain. I'm up for that. I like a recommendation, and I do need more fiction books, to be honest. It's a lot of theory on my list, and I will try and get it. And also, Black Library books, not too hard to get your hands on nowadays. Also, another score has come in from Dollface. Hi, Dollface. Dumplings 8. Okay, around the median score. Cut 7. Much so stronger cut appreciator, and box. Yeah, pretty close to your score, Murgoot, but not liking cut as much.
Yeah.
For some reason, personally, didn't find Dumplings that hard to watch, but I like the concept. Oh, I found it very visceral. But yeah, thanks again, Patrick Batman. Much appreciated, and I do like a reference, and I do like a recommendation, and I also, I have a certain soft spot for 40k. I played Eldar. People will be maybe unsurprised to hear. Murgoot, do you play?
I used to have about 5,000 points of Dark Angels, about 2,000 points of Emperor's Children, and I had about 2,000 points of Dark Eldar.
Dark Eldar?
Yeah.
Surprises me. I would have thought you'd have been an Imperial Guard kind of guy.
Not enough money for that.
True. You do have to, yeah. You do have to get a heck of a lot of miniatures for that.
I started with Rogue Trader. That's where I got
all
my noise marines from.
Oh yeah, okay. You were there in the early days, yeah.
Oh yeah. Back when it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Very 80s, very 80s. I mean, if you ever played Necromunda,
yes, I have.
Oh, that was great. I love Necromunda, but the 80s references in that were over the top, you know. That was brilliant. But yeah, Noise Marines are particularly 80s, bless them.
Gotta love them.
Yeah. Before we go 40k posting, Patrick Batman, Dark Elder are basically Cenobites. True.
Yes.
Yeah, and Roy Herbert, bring us back onto topic here. It's dumplings with your slow cooked beef and ale stew. Yes, that's the way we do it around here. I gather it's a little different in Kowloon. Good to see you again, though, Rory. Sorry to hear you ended up unsubscribed. It happens. YouTube is weird about this. Patrick, around 40k stream when? Don't tempt me, Frodo.
Yeah.
I'll get that torn, you know. Do I?
Yeah, the reason I got into
the Wire stream as well. God, I'm torn. Can't break kayfabe, you know. All right, I'm possibly getting a little bit silly here, and luckily, I'm brought back onto topic. Have you considered taking payment for a one-to-one video chat sometime? I'd love to pick the brain of you and wifey about more than just horror films. As a members stream, I don't know, maybe a member stream, I don't know, is possible, but I can't say I have, to be honest. But thank you very much. Yeah, maybe as a member stream, like that's sort of easier for asking questions. I've wondered about an AMA at some point, but I don't know. Never really gone for it. So, but thank you very much. $5, very much appreciated, Adam. And a call-in thing. Yeah, I've just seen that. Yes, I am tempted. I do like the occasional daily copes. Occasionally, I catch them, but there's so much about. Righty. Actually, if you're asking for non-horror streams, we might break a bit of kayfabe and focus. I have been tempted that the trouble is on YouTube, if you promise to cover something, it's never going to happen. You know the curse, right, Murgoot? I'm not making it up.
There are certain creators that they've now gotten to the point where if you mention that one more time, I'm adding another week before it's done.
Yes.
I'm afraid I shouldn't have mentioned it because they keep bringing it up, and the more you mention it, the less I want to do it.
There's that as well. And just, there's also, if you just sort of, I believe in making the videos when you're kind of passionate and fired up and you've got the energy. That's when the video comes out best. If you try and do something and you don't have the energy, it's very difficult. And yeah, but I was thinking about an end of the month stream, bringing waifu in, and we're going to do a weird little stream on a topic that I brought up with a wonderful guy called Last Things on our review of, our discussion about Everything Everywhere All at Once, about gloop culture. And, I kind of thought that would be an idea worth expanding. So I don't want to promise it, but if we've got the energy, Waifu and I will try and have a talk about gloop culture, which is about sort of homogenization as applied to culture. You may find it interesting, you may find it weirdly esoteric, and totally not what you want from your horror stream, but we'll put it out there. We may also do some Agatha Christie posting, because people were really nice about that when we had a massive Christie tangent in the Scream 6 video. So we could do that as well. So we might expand out for it. I think I've forgotten where I was going with that. Yes. All right. So that may happen end of the month, but I don't want to necessarily promise. I think I'm going off track there. So it's coming out as a pretty strong recommendation from both of us, I think, there, Murgoot. Mm-hmm. That's some pretty good going for 3 extremes.
Yeah. Well, Asian horror tends to be... It's off the beaten track enough that I don't get bored with it. Bad, Patrick, bad.
Oh no, that's not the worst one. If you saw the our coverage of Eden Lake, we got very silly of that, just classifying Michael Fassbender's character as the proposer. I'm gonna propose. Oh dear, we got derailed with that. Sorry, what I meant to say actually, talking about Gloop. Last Things did a little panel of awards based on his film festival. I was very, very pleased to say that he thought I did the best at doing a great review of a terrible film, which he classified as the Grand Inquisitor Award. I was very flattered to win that. And the beauty of it for you, I'm not just boasting, the beauty of it is that for you guys, he is going to put up 30 minutes of the stream, or the whole stream, on his channel. When that's out, I'll link you guys to it so that you can see it for free. And if you enjoy it, then again, highly recommend spending the $5 that it costs to access all of Last Things' Last Picture Show Festival, because that's 40 hours of content, and it's glorious. I'm still working my way through it. All right, I think I'm getting off topic. We're in danger of upsetting Super Nanny. So I think with that, with our scores done, probably we'll just drop the horror homework, if that's okay. What do you reckon, Murgoot?
Let's go.
Because I'm getting silly at this point. Okay, so next week, as we said, we are still in anthologies for January. We're going to do one more anthology, then we're going to do a member request, which I really should have done a long time ago. So next week, we're going from 2005. We're looking at Masters of Horror. Now, there are 2 seasons of that. We're going to do 3 episodes of it. They are hour-long episodes, so we'll see what we can do. But you will not be surprised to hear that we are covering Takeshi Miike's Imprint. So this is the first season. It's the episode that they were not allowed to broadcast on TV. That's Imprint by Takeshi Miike. Then we are doing Dreamer in the Witch House, Witcher in the Dream House.
Stuart Gordon directs H.P. Lovecraft's Dreams in the Witch House.
Thank you. There we go. Yes, excellent. We saw Stuart Gordon on that. I mean, we were torn. We were torn trying to choose. Oh, hey, Devante. Welcome back. We're just doing the horror homework here. So horror homework is going to be Masters of Horror select episodes. So first one, Takeshi Miike's Imprint from season 1. Then there is Stuart Gordon's H.P. Lovecraft's... we just did it.
Dreams
in the Witch House. Thank you. And then as a bit of a rogue one, we're taking a bit of a gamble here. We're going to do The Washingtonians by Peter Medak. So that's Imprint, H.P. Lovecraft's Dreams in the Witch House, and The Washingtonians, all from Masters of Horror. That will be fairly gory, I imagine. Have fun. I have seen none of these, so I'm going to enjoy it. And the week after, I might as well give you a preview. I believe it is going to be Beyond the Black Rainbow, I think is what we're covering. That's 2010, I believe.
Bien Rib. Brown Jenkins is the boss.
Brown Jenkins?
He's the villain's familiar.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Sweet. Okay, cool. Well, I hope it works. I haven't seen any of these episodes. I've only seen one episode of Masters of Horror. And if you have watched my video on pro-life and pro-choice messaging in horror films, you will know I thought that episode was terrible, hilariously terrible. So I'm sure these other 3 episodes will be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, there is. So it's Masters of Horror next week, and we'll close January with a member request, which I should have done ages ago, and it's Beyond the Black Rainbow, which looks pretty interesting. So going to give it a go. All right, that's from 2010. So there is your horror homework. You've had your review of 3 Extremes, and I hope you're going to follow it up by having a really lovely Friday and a lovely weekend. Thank you very much, Murgoot.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure doing these with you, mate. And chat, thank you ever so much. Thank you for being very generous tonight. It's much appreciated. And I hope you enjoyed it. All right, that is everything from me, and I will leave it there. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.